C.S. Lewis once said, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. This profound truth beckons us to reflect deeply. Have you ever felt like surrendering to the weight of life's trials, abandoning your dreams and divine calling? The reality is, difficult seasons are woven into God's divine tapestry for our lives. The ease and enjoyment we sometimes crave do not always equate to genuine growth. It is within the fiercest storms that we often find our greatest advancement and spiritual maturation. Perhaps you are in the midst of such a tempest, feeling lost and overwhelmed. Many fail to see the lessons in their struggles, but mature believers know how to harvest their hurts and learn from their losses. They turn adversity into an opportunity for growth. If we fail to do this, bitterness can take root, and we miss out on the extraordinary plans God has for us. Trust in Him during these challenging times, and you will witness miraculous breakthroughs. Stay with us as we delve deeper into these truths. If this message resonates with you, please like and share your thoughts in the comments before we move on to the next topic. When the shadows of doubt and despair envelop you, remember to hold on to the faith that God is orchestrating something profound behind the scenes. The trials we face are not without purpose. Consider the story of Joseph, who, despite being falsely accused and languishing in prison for 13 long years, found his spirit refined and strengthened in those dark moments. Psalm 105 verse 18 tells us, "They bruised his feet with shackles, his neck was put in irons," symbolizing a profound internal transformation. This powerful imagery speaks to the growth that occurs within us when we are placed in difficult circumstances. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." Through the crucible of suffering, Joseph's perseverance was forged, his prayers became more fervent, and his faith was unshakable. Reflect upon your own struggles. What inner strength might be cultivated within you during these tough times? Could these challenges be shaping you for a greater purpose? Lewis believed that pain is God's megaphone to rouse a deaf world. When Joseph was bound in chains, it was not just his body that was confined, his soul was being tempered and strengthened for the destiny that lay ahead. Ask yourself, how is God using my current struggles to mold my character and deepen my faith? Embrace the growth that comes from within, knowing that every hardship is a stepping stone to a more resilient, prayerful and faithful you. As Lewis poignantly put it, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Allow this profound truth to resonate within you, transforming your pain into a source of enduring strength and unshakable faith. What am I conveying? Dear friends, there are spiritual lessons that only come to us through trials and tribulations. These moments are not enjoyable, and we don't feel inclined to celebrate them, but there is profound hope in knowing that, despite the difficulty, God is at work. Though it's challenging, God is orchestrating something meaningful in your life. Though it's tough, God is preparing you for future endeavors. If you believe it, say amen, just as Job proclaimed, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." Consider the wisdom of C.S. Lewis, who once remarked, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." This underscores the idea that true growth often requires enduring pain, patience, sorrow, and chaos. The process of demolition is messy, akin to remodeling a house. You must expect disarray. Everything you endure is part of God's preparation for what you have prayed for. You must stop stumbling over the process, recognizing its necessity. Even if you cannot see it now, when you reach the other side, you will understand why it unfolded this way and find peace with it. God is shaping you. His work in you is not yet complete. Reflect on the words of Lewis once more. Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Too often, people facing hardship and tragedy make the grave error of fleeing from God. They become angry with God, disappointed with their circumstances, and choose to run away from Him. While this human reaction is understandable, prompts a crucial question. Where are you running to? If you flee from the one who loves you unconditionally and holds the power to heal you, to whom will you turn? It's a mistake to run from God. Instead, in times of hardship, draw closer to God. Seek His presence, for it is in these moments that His work in you is most profound and transformative. Romans 8 verse 28 tells us, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. This verse is a beacon of hope, reassuring us that God has a specific purpose for each of us, intricately designed and tailored to our unique lives. C.S. Lewis once said, "Hardship often prepares an ordinary person for an extraordinary destiny." This perspective encourages us to see that every experience, whether joyful or painful, serves a greater purpose in God's grand design. Consider the trials you faced losing a job, enduring a divorce, suffering a miscarriage, or watching a loved one battle illness. Each of these situations is undeniably tough, but Lewis reminds us that God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains and is His megaphone to rouse a deaf ear. These words invite us to ponder how our most challenging moments might be God's way of calling us closer to Him, of shaping us for His divine purpose. Imagine the moments of spontaneous joy and ease in your life. Those are gifts, but they are not the entirety of God's method. He also uses our hardest trials to fulfill His purpose. It's easy to question, why must I endure this suffering? But as Lewis points out, we are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us. We are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be. This reflection leads us to understand that even in our darkest hours, God is at work, weaving our struggles into His greater plan. When you feel overwhelmed by life's hardships, remember that God is not finished with you. If the situation is not yet good, it means His work in your life is still ongoing. Trusting in God's heart, His faithfulness, and His love is crucial, even when His actions are unclear. As you reflect on your journey, ask yourself, how has God used my struggles for good? This question can help you recognize the subtle, divine thread in your life's tapestry. In the words of C.S. Lewis, faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted, in spite of your changing moods. Hold on to the truth of God's unwavering purpose for you, and trust that every experience, both joyous and painful, is a step towards the extraordinary destiny He has prepared. Imagine your life as a seed. Each one of you carries within the seed of dreams and potential. However, the seed doesn't sprout and flourish by resting on a shelf in a state of comfort. It needs to be planted and buried in a dark, difficult place. Only then, through enduring that hard place, can it germinate and grow, ultimately fulfilling its potential. Our lives mirror this process. While we cherish the mountaintop moments filled with joy and triumph, we must also navigate through tough, lonely seasons. It's in these challenging times that God is working to bring forth something remarkable from within us. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Hardship often prepares an ordinary person for an extraordinary destiny." Reflect on this. How can the difficulties you're facing now be shaping you for something greater? Are you perhaps being prepared for an extraordinary purpose? Instead of lamenting your current struggles, recognize them as a divine opportunity. Embrace this season as a time where God is nurturing your growth, drawing out your hidden potential. There is something profound that God wants to bring to fruition in your life through these hard times. Can you trust that your present hardships are the soil from which your greatest strengths will grow? As a believer enduring difficult times, it's essential to understand that the struggles you face are akin to the dirt necessary for a seed to grow into its intended purpose. C.S. Lewis insightfully remarked, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." Just as a seed needs soil to fulfill its potential, our lives require challenges for God's promises to manifest. When you're in the midst of these trials, it might feel as though you're being buried, but in reality, you're being planted. Have you ever reflected on how Just as a planted seed eventually breaks through the soil, you too will rise again, rejuvenated and stronger. This chapter of your life is not the conclusion. Don't flee from your trials or seek to escape them. Embrace them as the fertile ground in which your faith and resilience are nurtured. You are not buried, you are planted, destined to grow and flourish. Hard seasons have been the crucible for the most profound growth in my life. It wasn't during the sunny days and joyous moments that I found myself transformed. Indeed, I don't eagerly pray for challenges, nor do I relish those difficult times. Trust me. However, I've come to understand that the most significant personal growth occurs in the midst of life's storms. Consider this: how often do we, in the throes of struggle, question our purpose and future? It's during these trials, be they relational, financial, or existential, that we must shift our perspective. Lewis eloquently reminded us, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Are we listening to these divine whispers and shouts? Are we recognizing that in our moments of greatest weakness, God is actively molding us for something greater? When I find myself in these valleys, I strive to adjust my outlook. It's not easy, especially when the path ahead is shrouded in uncertainty and I feel surrounded by darkness. Yet faith urges me to trust that God is orchestrating something profound behind the scenes. Lewis's reflections resonate deeply here. Faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted, in spite of your changing moods. So wherever you find yourself, whether grappling with relational turmoil, financial woes, or existential dread, ask yourself, can you see this as an opportunity for divine growth? Can you, like Lewis, find solace in the idea that there are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind? By embracing this mindset, we open ourselves to the possibility that even in the hardest seasons, God is preparing us for an extraordinary destiny. We often shy away from praying for pain, seeking instead blessings and favor. However, it is in the crucible of suffering that we often find God's true favor. This paradox is deeply rooted in Christian faith, where the greatest act of love, the salvation brought through Jesus Christ, was accomplished through unimaginable pain on the cross. C.S. Lewis poignantly observed, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world through pain. We are drawn closer to God, recognizing our absolute need for his presence. Psalm 32 verse 8 reassures us, I will guide you along the best pathway for your life. I will advise you and watch over you. Notice it doesn't promise the easiest route, but the best one. Reflect on this. How often has God led us away from immediate comfort to shield us from greater unseen heartache? How many times have we been guided down the more arduous path to build resilience and character for the challenges ahead? Lewis also reminds us that hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Seeking God's best path rather than the easiest ensures we discover our full potential and are adequately prepared for future trials. In God's best path there is abundant grace and protection, even in your current struggles. Know that God is vigilantly guiding and advising you, shaping you for what lies ahead. That's precisely how God operates, and we must come to understand this truth. In the midst of life's storms, we often find ourselves praying fervently, God, take this storm away. It's a natural plea, rooted in our desire for relief and comfort. God, take the storm away, yet God doesn't always calm the storm. Instead, he promises to walk alongside us through it. David articulates this beautifully in Psalm 23, proclaiming, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures, he leads me beside the still waters. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. This verse reveals a profound truth. The same God who guides us to peaceful pastures is also with us in the darkest valleys. David's journey of faith teaches us to trust in God without resentment, to persist without surrendering must believe that just as God leads us to tranquil waters, He is also guiding us through difficult seasons, preparing us for something greater. David continues, emphasizing that after traversing the valley, God prepares a table before us in the presence of our adversaries, and our cup overflows. This promise signifies that trials precede triumphs. If you're enduring hardship, it means God is orchestrating something significant. Don't lose heart or abandon your faith on the journey to your table. Many falter and question, "Where is God? Why can't I see His hand?" But God assures us, "I've prepared the table. I will guide you through this valley. Keep your faith strong. Remain anchored in hope, for I am at work, watching over you. I will provide for you, and your cup will overflow in the presence of your enemies." C.S. Lewis once said, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone. To rouse a deaf world, this idea aligns with David's experience and our own struggles. In our pain and suffering, God's voice becomes more pronounced, urging us to trust Him more deeply. Lewis, through his works, invites us to examine our inner fears and pains, asking, are we willing to trust God's plan, even when we cannot see the outcome? Can we find peace in knowing that He is with us in every storm, guiding us toward our ultimate good? This deeper analysis of our trials reminds us that God's presence is constant, and His promises are unwavering, urging us to stay steadfast in our faith and hope. It's the hard seasons that bring the most out of us. In the moment, we may not always feel it or see it, but in hindsight, we see it's in those moments where we're stretched, our faith grows, and we become the people God designed us to be. We become the people He wants us to be when we get to the table of blessing, the place where He wants to overflow our cup. Recognize that Christ lives inside you, and though the season is hard, you have supernatural power in you to bounce back, to walk through this valley, not just struggling to struggle, not being a victim, not becoming bitter and complaining, but putting your shoulders back and having hope in the hard times. Have hope in this season, knowing not necessarily how the promise will come, how God will provide, but having hope because you know who your provider is. You may not know how you're going to get to the table, how you're going to get to the promise, or how Goliath will fall, but you can rest assured and have hope in who your giant killer is and who will escort you into the promise. We often need to be reminded of God's unwavering presence and the mysterious ways He operates. C.S. Lewis once said, "God is not merely good, but goodness is not merely divine, but God." This profound insight encourages us to recognize that God, in His almighty and all-knowing nature, works in ways far beyond our understanding. His ways and thoughts surpass our own, leading Him to act in manners we cannot always comprehend. Our human desire to grasp every detail of His plan can be frustrating as we yearn for clarity and direction. Yet God does not provide us with a step-by-step manual for life's journey. Instead, He offers us the culmination of the story and countless promises that affirm His trustworthiness. Through His ongoing demonstrations of love, particularly the sacrifice of His only begotten Son, we see His commitment to us. When we face trials, it is common to question, why would God let this happen in those moments? We may doubt His goodness, pondering, if my situation isn't good, does that mean God's not good? Here, Lewis's words guide us to understand that our perception of goodness should be rooted in our faith in God's character. He has repeatedly proven His love for us. And it is in these times of doubt and confusion that we must trust His heart. Are we willing to believe in God's love, even when we cannot see His plan? Can we find peace in knowing that His ways, though mysterious, are ultimately for our good? Reflecting on these questions helps us to build empathy and understanding, fostering a deeper connection with our faith and with others who share these struggles. In times of darkness and hardship, it is crucial not to resist these challenging moments, but to embrace them for growth. Picture the dirt that surrounds you not as an obstacle, but as fertile ground nurturing your potential. C.S. Lewis once said, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." This wisdom invites us to consider, what if the discomfort you feel is shaping you for something magnificent? Reflect on the biblical story of Joseph, who, despite being sold into slavery, rose to greatness because he trusted God's plan. Similarly, we must seek God's best rather than the easy route. When we prioritize His path, even when it seems difficult, we align ourselves with our true destiny. This season, challenge yourself. Are you seeking the path of least resistance, or are you willing to grow through trials? Embracing this mindset can elevate you to new levels, pass life's tests, and achieve the purpose God has set before you. As mature believers, let us trust Him wholeheartedly. Lewis also remarked, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Let us heed this call, grow deeper in faith, and mature in our spiritual journey." Amen.